Here, what should I was trying to minimize the sound of my processor, but that's not gonna happen. It basically cuts off my head otherwise, and it's blurry for no apparent reason. High five, you guys! It's really nice outside. You should check this out. Auto HD. Ooh, nice. See? Oops, did I disconnect everything? Of course I did. Look at the beautiful outdoors. This is where I live now. Okay, you know how they say, like, never start a presentation with a graph? I just thought I'd start a presentation with a graph, so that's how I roll. And as usual, we will be using IRC, and I've had, like, splendid issues already with IRC, but thank you for putting up with me for, like, a couple more weeks. When I move in, it's gonna be epic. I won't have to be using a godforsaken laptop. First world problems. I'm like complaining about I call it my hipster machine because it's a Mac. Anyway, yeah. How's everybody doing? Good to see y'all. And I was also hoping to like lessen the CPU load, so this be AnChat, which is Android chat. Yeah. So it's actually going to rudely look like I'm like, excuse me, live stream, I'm going to read this. And it's actually you guys, so here's proof. And if you guys need to know the IRC, hopefully somebody will link it, because I've linked it like umpteen times upon having rescheduled also. So that's a thing. I don't know how pro streamers do it, man. I'm doing my best. So what I would like is to potentially make a vain attempt of having some people on the air with me, particularly if you have a OnePlus One, or if you run CyanogenMod, which is kind of the same thing, or maybe you have Ubuntu Touch, but some sort of like ghetto version on your phone, like absolutely, let me know. Just, yeah, PM me in IRC, or you can post fervently in the Google chat, and that might also work. But yeah, this is a sunny day in Seattle. Actually, the lovely thing about being in Seattle is that all light is diffused light, because the sun doesn't really ever come out, so I'm like automatically, my paleness is accepted here. Hopefully everybody else is equally pale. Or you could have lives. You could go out and do stuff, it's fine. That is totally fine. Alrighty. So that graph that I was showing you earlier was the market share for the iPhone versus Android, whole 9 yards. You know the drill. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I wanted to discuss Android in the marketplace because we've been struggling, haven't we? I mean, I talked about this 2 years ago at DEF CON, and a lot of the like state of technology is still the same, just like facepalm. Sorry if that got a bit slow. I just decided I always spontaneously open Firefox. Like do you ever have like this nervous tick where you do something over and over again as soon as you sit down? Yeah, I have that. Okay. I also am using a data backup plan, so I have a process running in the background that I had to kill, -9. So at least Bash works, sort of. How's everybody recovering from the vuln that they had, the Bash vuln? Oh, it was funny. They had a news break, and they said, a virus has happened and it's called Bash. Everybody get rid of Bash on their computers. And I'm like, you keep saying that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. It's a vulnerability called bash. All right, what y'all saying? Ooh, TH1 bypassed the thermal senses on his MacBook, and that would be extremely smart. I don't know what the deal is. I don't even have it like hyper threading or like utilizing all 8 of its supposed cores, so I don't know. Hopefully it's not too big of a deal, though. I returned that mic that I had previously, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Everybody go into the IRC, the IRC, the IRC. I'm going to also do some giveaways here as soon as I get peak performance. There's more people joining and such. So, since I have my and chat open, if you guys have better suggestions on Android experiences, let me know, because Android IRC experiences, because I'd be totally down to check it out. Yep, the bash bug is so not over yet. The problem is bash itself, you guys. You have to uninstall it, apparently. That's what Windows wants you to do. Speaking of Windows, we get to talk about all the fun stuff that Windows has done in mobile lately. When I went to CTIA, I don't know if you guys are aware of like the mobile, it's like the mobility conference, super mobility conference. It was pretty cool. It's in Vegas. Not nearly as cool as DEF CON, and it was cool seeing a lot of DEF CON people there. I was just like, what are you guys doing? You're causing troubles, I can tell. They're like, no, we're not, and there's a pool on the roof. I'm like, okay, crash override. Yeah, this culture has been pretty epic winning, and I am still such a noob. But I'm trying, and that's all that really matters. Well, what I heard about the bash bug is essentially it makes it so you can run from the command prompt with like just by inputting a kind of like similar fork bomb type code looking thing, which if I'm not lazy, I will show right here after I edit this in post. That's what I like to do. I like to edit things in post. So then I look naturally awesome at things. Yeah. All right, so how many people love Android because it's open source? That's my first poll. I would take a poll if I knew how. Have a control room. Yeah. I think what'll end up happening is I need a moderator. But that'll be for the future, you know. Doing the best I can. Yep. Field says that anytime an attacker controls environment variables, it could be a problem. Especially because you can disguise, you can essentially like rewrite x equals this one string. So like you could take control of bash and then you could do x equals rm-rf slash, you know, something like crazy like that. And then you can just remove all the things. So yeah, it's suboptimal for sure. Hopefully it's not too loud for you guys. I'm trying not to talk so very loud. Let me turn the volume down just a wee bit. Okay, so the microphone. There we go. Cool. Testing 1, 2, 3. Everybody's asking if Borderlands 2 is good on Linux. I cannot wait to start my Linux like gaming channel. It's so on. The first thing I do when I go back to San Francisco is I'm loading up my rig and I'm taking it. Oh, and my cats. Can't forget those. Yeah, dogs are leaving here, cats are coming in here. Mass hysteria, cats and dogs living together. So the only downside to this whole Android IRC thing is I have to unlock my phone perpetually. Should probably fix that at some point. straw poll. Give it a shot. Yeah, and whoever is making my IRC badass by announcing the times of my live stream, thank you so much. Like, I could not do this at all without the help of you guys. And my Patreon has been delightful. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. For sure. This is what I was linked to. This is the straw poll. That is ridiculously easy. But in general, I don't need too much of a, like, I need more of a binary answer, you know. Who loves Android because it's open source? It's kind of a rhetorical question, actually. You'll find out in a minute. Yeah. Hello, the Hangout is here. Hopefully the sound isn't absolute garbage. Because the mic that I bought was $75, and I was just like, So we like to think that it's awesome and it's open source, and it's especially great because Android has 78% of the shares of all users, like, globally. 78%, right? And, like, I think iOS has only 18% of the global market mobile, you know, share. So supposedly in 2014, because they IDC hasn't predicted it yet, but in 2014 supposedly that's supposed to go up to 80% of Android users. But, like, the huge myth that people think about Android, that it's open source, and people were like, hey, you guys, you know, you should, since you talk about OS alt, meaning open source alternative, meaning you can talk about Android apps, right? Well, it's like, that's not really how it works. Google is, please don't strike me down like you're probably God now, but Google is excellent at kind of skirting around the issue. So there's actually two platforms. The one that Google uses for what we know as Android is actually pretty locked down, and the one that's maintained by the Android open source project, I think ASOP or something, it's like the Open Handset project, that's actually open source. But so the problem is the very nature of the ASOP, like the open source project, is you can't have any proprietary, like, extensions or drivers. But then, you know, you have companies like Samsung and, you know, the big companies that produce these mobile phones or handsets, they require, like, this proprietary spin. So, like, they're fundamentally incompatible, like, on a core level. So, yeah, basically the Android that you have, that was like a really weird sound effect, but basically the Android that you probably have is locked down. One of the main reasons is, oh, like, you know, another good thing is it's Linux-based. You know, Android is Linux-based, yay. But the problem with that is the whole idea of Linux is to have, like, an open kernel, which Android doesn't have. So, like, the kernel is public license, right? So it means that the code in the kernel itself is unlocked and everybody can play with it, and that's, like, what makes Linux work in general. But you can't even, like, boot off of, like, you can't boot Android, like, open source from the kernel. Like, you have, there's that makes sense. It's like the gatekeeper. It's like the issue with the internet fastnet lane net neutrality. Like, Comcast wants to be the gatekeeper. It's still, like, there's always gatekeepers in corporations. So yeah, it's unfortunately, I think most of you guys already knew this, but yeah. And shockingly, it's an Android open source project. So it's like that walled garden aspect, right? So you had what I've been talking about recently on my last live stream was hackathons, and how it used to be FreeBSD kind of, like, kicked it off, actually. and it was like the open source philosophy, all 100%. And then corporations kind of got a hold of it, and it became more like, yeah, open philosophy, except use my regimented tools and, you know, make my IPs for me and stuff like that. So it kind of like produced that corporate agenda, you know, that corporate agenda surfaced. So like, I don't know, like Google's motto is do no evil, right? Or something like that. So at the same time, most everything they've done that I've experienced has been positive. You know, they're trying to do the Google FiOS connection. They were trying to like they got outbid by Verizon to try to have like these frequencies of wireless be not required of having like there's certain wireless frequencies that you are required to have licenses for. That's pretty much everything, and that's a lot of the reason why like the internet has been locked down lately. And Google fought against that. They said, hey, we're going to give you, I don't know, umpteen billion, blah, 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 blah. But the catch is, you know, we want these frequencies to be open. We want the internet to be open. So with that being said, I'd much rather talk about Android products than, well, iOS for one, pretty much any other. So there's still open source operating systems that I want to talk about, which is why this video exists. And I hope you don't mind that I'm going to be every once in a while looking at the IRC here. And if you guys have any testimonials to having a truly open source operating system on your phone, please let me know. Now that I'm fully back in the United States and in my own humble abode, I'm going to get the Ubuntu Touch. I'm going to check out OnePlus One because, like, that's orgasmic. I mean, who doesn't love that? So, let's see here. Take a little break, take a little break. Yeah, it's true. Oh man, of course this application is just like constantly scrolling. But yeah, Big Whale says that it's always a decision on how much freedom you'll sacrifice. You know, I mean, it's that catch-22, right? But I don't think it necessarily has to be that way. So, so yeah, Android is kind of surprising because it likes to tote that it's open source, but basically the very principle of it, like the kernel, is locked down. So that's not a thing, you know. And you should root your phone whenever possible. And I should definitely do a lot more videos on that. But like it goes even deeper than that. Google has like Google says that no Android devices require patents. But Windows has been doing something really sketchy for so many years. They're essentially going up to like Samsung and HTC and you know, those big handset manufacturers and companies and saying, hey, we want to get the Android royalties. So like imagine it's like your own work. And you're like, oh no, like, you know, this isn't really a big deal. Like say it's a painting or something. And you're like, I had a painting, you know, everybody can use it. You know, no need to patent the technology I use to paint this painting. We'll say it's like GIMP or something. And then some big corporation like Adobe comes in and says, well, actually, we think that it is patentable and we're going to essentially like extort money from these, you know, big companies that that you sell your painting to and then take royalties from it. It's like absolutely bizarre, and Google's like definitely put their foot down in that regard. They're like, this is crap. I just said that anybody can enjoy this, and then yeah, they're pursuing like aggressive licensing deals with all these big mobile phone companies, and it's just like that is a really bad way to set the tone for anything. You know, to just kind of strong arms something in that regard, like even having that open source philosophy, it's really hard to maintain when you're constantly being like smacked down by people like that. So supposedly like more than 50% of like global contract makers that manufacture Android devices are actually like in bed with Microsoft to get royalties from the purchase of a phone with Chrome on it or of a phone with Android on it. So it's just like unbelievable how that works. Like I never thought that in a million years. Oh, am I getting dropped? Fun. Oh no, I'm not dropped. Cool. So, oh yeah, okay, so Trippy, this leads me to my next point soon. Trippy said that I'd like to see Firefox OS on better hardware than we see for now. So like, that's really weird, right? So I don't know if you remember Ubuntu Edge, but I kind of toured a new one when it came out a while back. Or actually it didn't come out. They essentially like wanted $32 million or something like that for their new handset that was essentially just a bunch of 3D renderings. But like the aspect is cool, and that's the thing about Kickstarter is that you can say, hey, I'm gonna make like a laser shooting unicorn robot with, you know, a cat mounted on top of it that carries Uzis and AK-47s. All I need is $32 million. And people are like, well, I like, you know, Uzis and I like unicorns and like, but I also like $32 million, so I don't think I'm going to give that to you. So in this case, Canonical didn't get anywhere near, well, they got half. So I think it was like, let me see if I can actually remember somewhere how much money they ended up getting. Come on now. I like wrote this down somewhere, you guys. I don't know. I think it was like $18 million. So now they don't have Ubuntu Edge, so it doesn't have like octa-core, and it's not going to be able to seamlessly connect. Like you're not going to be able to make a Ubuntu computer experience out of it. But they are also like, I think 2 days ago they announced that they're you know, giving their Ubuntu Touch phone a try, and they're going to be releasing it. But what Trippy said is really interesting because most of these open source operating systems are for the mid-range phones, right? So I don't know if you guys feel free to weigh in here. At least in the US, like having a smartphone is more standard, right? It's not a luxury as much. I mean, it definitely does cost money, and we pay it, and we just have $700 phones like this Note, which I'll get to in a minute. I actually got this from my buddy who was really nice to kind of consider me a charity case, and I got it for a lot cheaper than I should have. Thanks, buddy. But yeah, so a lot of these are like kind of the mid-range smartphone experience when I was in the Philippines and like the kind of more developing nations, I want to say. There were a lot of candy bars, there were a lot of clamshells, and smartphones were kind of like, they were kind of like Muggle phones, sorry for the nerdy references, but so that's where the open source philosophy has really entered into the market. So that's why you'll see Firefox OS is like pretty, there's a lot of things about Firefox OS. It's basically, the one thing I noticed is it just has, when I kind of explored into it, it has just a ton of like, it just has a bunch of web files. It's like JavaScript and CSS and HTML. So like when I was looking at it, I'm like, oh cool, you know, 85% of applications already in Android run HTML5 or like some type of HTML5. So that's cool that Firefox OS also has that, but at the same time, that's essentially screaming, I'm lightweight and you can use shitty hardware on me and it'll be fine. And in fact, it'll be preferable. So like, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely want to be able to have like a higher end phone if possible. So that's why the OnePlus was really interesting. Hopefully I'm not talking really, really fast or anything, but yeah. Okay, looking at the IRC. Cool, you guys actually found me on YouTube? That's cool. So Phoenix said that what he likes, or she, by all means, correct me, What I like about open source software on my phone is that I have the freedom to change it to behave like I want, including rooting. With something like iOS or Windows Mobile, if I don't like something, too bad. That's definitely true, and a lot of the reason why I was interested in the OnePlus One. OnePlus? Probably saying this improperly, but like this phone, right? I have you guys on IRC here and my reflection 5,000 times, but this is a Samsung Galaxy Note 3, and this is, it was like 750 or just some stupid amount if you weren't going to lock yourself into a contract, which I wasn't planning on doing it. And they're just kind of like absurd specs, you know, like, but the caveat is if I want to root it, if I want to run something open source, like CyanogenMod is great. The guy who does it is great, Cyanogen. I forget his name, isn't that terrible? I met him and I forgot his name. He probably forgot mine. It was one of those experiences. But, you know, there's oftentimes issues. Like if you guys remember Wine, Wine is not an emulator, haha, yeah. But there were actually, you know, they would talk about compatibility issues. So they'd say Commander Keen would work using Wine except for, you know, version 7.04 of Ubuntu, you know. So that situation to have non-official bootloaders or non-official operating systems installed, you're going to deal with the incompatibility issues. So I have this fancy little schmancy stylus that if I was to use CyanogenMod, it doesn't have a really great track record of working. So what do? Do I trade off the hardware functionality for being free in the software sense? It's a tough decision to make, which is why OnePlus is really interesting because it's hardware designed around the CyanogenMod like framework. So it's basically works right out of the box. And if I have an invite, so I will be getting one soon, but the specs are like ridiculous. So that is an example of a higher end phone, and also an example of how inflated like these big corporations make their hardware. So this OnePlus phone is super beefy. I'll get the specs for you guys here in a second. Yeah, actually, I'll get you the specs right now because I have that capability. So, ooh, flagship killer. Okay, you guys. So like, and the reason why I'm talking about that is because not only do they use CyanogenMod, but they also recently released their, like they opened up their kernel and they said, here you go, here's your source code. So that's why I'm talking about this right now. There we go, you guys. See if this doesn't break everything. Cool. I have my little Japan trip icon still there. But see, the cool thing about this is it has a very, very similar, you know, specs, but it's only $340 if you want the like large storage availability. And it's gorgeous. I actually got my hands on one of these and it was just like, cool. So yeah. Of course, Snapdragon makes amazing, or Qualcomm Snapdragon processors. So it's a quad core, you know, it's not like blazingly, you know, super fast, but I've had no problems messing with it whatsoever. So then, you know, and it works. The camera is supposed to be really sexy. So this is kind of an elite type iPhone-based marketing model, you know, like there's only a specific amount of people that can get it. And so yeah, 13 megapixel camera. And the front-facing camera is not supposed to be garbage either. So that's really nice because I don't know if you noticed, but front-facing cameras tend to be pretty terrible. And so the battery life is the one thing that I noticed when I was messing around with it. And there's also 3 microphones. I'm just kind of like blazing through this here. But yeah, so like here's an example of a more higher end smartphone. And you get to choose, you know, based on like the flexibility of CyanogenMod, you get to choose exactly how customizable, you know, your phone can be. And really, like, well, here we go. Okay, yeah, there's NFC, there's a compass, there's an accelerometer, things that we've come to expect, stuff like that. The proximity sensor can be pretty fun. Let's see if I can get my face back on here. So, yep, cool. And so I've heard that the ability to do an ADB OEM unlock on the Nexus is the reason that I've used them for 4 years. Well, that makes total sense, and I will make my face come back, hopefully, without ending the broadcast. Okay, cool. Yeah, so the ability to do what we want with a phone is pretty much regulated to how much we're willing to bend over for a big company, or how, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility that you just have to research. And don't use the cop-out that Android is open source, because it's not actually. However, I would like to do some more open source applications of like reviews within within the mobile space. So that'll be something I definitely consider. So yeah, I'm gonna check the chat real quick in the big chat, making sure everybody's on IRC. And I think I'm gonna take a break because it's been like a half an hour, and do a giveaway, because you guys have been super extra patient with me on all the things, but on rescheduling as much as I did. So also, if you guys are commenting in YouTube, I have no way of really responding at this moment. Google's trying to kind of seamlessly integrate YouTube with the Google Hangouts and the Google Live and stuff like that. And so there will be a point where I want to get multiple people up on here. Like maybe soon we can do a here's my phone and tell me about your phone type thing. I'd like to invite you guys onto the phonosphere. I just don't want to mess anything up. Oh, cool. There's a group chat, but nobody's on it. Awesome. So yeah, I think I can invite you guys to a hangout if anybody has a phone that they want to talk about that's particularly genius. Seagull said, didn't one of those OnePlus One phones batteries explode in the guy's pocket? Awkward. Yeah, I hope not, but it's entirely possible. I mean, but considering iOS, like the Apple factories did a lot worse. I mean, like they were putting hush orders on the people there because of the horrible stuff that happened in the factories with accidents and batteries. So, yeah. He also mentioned Sailfish OS, which is another mid-range phone. So the idea of bringing people up a notch as far as like making them smarter in their phone capabilities, or just working with the hardware that they have in creating that, that's pretty genius. So I guess, do you think that we're priority? Do we need to have these hoity-toity Ubuntu Edge like $800 phones, which I told them to go fuck off about? Or, you know, can we deal with mid-range? I don't know. I know what it's like in the US. Okay. Let me do the giveaways. Okay. So I I'm going to be picking a viewer here and that's viewing currently on the Google Hangout. And I'm going to just pull up the game. And none of this would be possible if it wasn't for you guys. There was a specific user named Egal who had a whole bunch of Humble Indie Bundle love that he gave to me. So I want to also return the favor for you guys and give away a copy of Anomaly Defenders. And don't worry, for those who are watching this recorded, I always do giveaways for the people who respond to any of the comments or any babbling, incoherently type stuff that I tend to do. I always do a couple people give away from that. So here's Anomaly Defenders. And I will show this to you guys while I'm in the middle of doing the giveaway. Look at this, see, I'm not doing too terrible this time, you guys. Oh yeah, cooking with gas. This is actually a really fun game if you're into tower. The first Anomaly Defenders is like tower offense, but it's still essentially tower defense, like regardless of what people say. So. Ooh. Oh, so Sony was recommended as a top-range phone that's also compatible in the open source world. All right. Hopefully you guys are seeing this. Nobody's complained about the stream, so that's a really good sign. Okay. And I'm just going to do a random number generator here while you guys are looking. And decide who wins. Okay. Hopefully you guys are gamers as much as I am. We'll do one in IRC. Okay. And the winner of this Anomaly Defenders game is, I have to count, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Asa Field. God, I'm still terrified that I'm not saying your like name properly. But congratulations, you've won! And all the games are compatible on Linux as well, so I'm super happy about all that. I will be sending you the key for Anomaly Defenders, and I hope you enjoy it. Wow, time flies when you're talking incoherent or babbling to yourself. What is it, this one? Uh-oh, what did I do? Did I mess something up? Oh, cool. Hey, this is like Comic Sans and terrifying. Yeah. What? Best freeze frame ever. So I just thought I'd let you guys know I get some sample text here, because that's important. I just wanted to write something that would remind myself of the winners, and apparently that's not the way to do it. Uh-oh. Nope. No Comic Sans. Get out of here. Whoa. Okay then. I didn't lose any of you. Sometimes you just have to put sample text all over your face. And you guys might not have even seen that, so that'd be triply embarrassing. Oh yeah, another thing to look out for, which sucks with the OnePlus One, if you can't remove the back of the case, this is like a signature Apple thing. They essentially lock down hardware. So with like an iPod, iPad, iPhone, you can't remove the battery. So that means that if the battery dies, your whole phone is essentially a brick. unless you know you've paid for that extra service to get that figured out. So though you can remove the backing on the OnePlus One phone, or OnePlus phone, God, you can't take out the battery. So there's that. Uh-oh. Hello. So thank you, Asafield, for winning. Yay. Whoa. So yeah, I'm just again looking at the IRC on my phone. I think it's pretty legit, but yeah, Sailfish OS came from Migo, and Migo is kind of like the ancient ideal of. Oh no, didn't you guys drop? Okay. Anyway, so since we took just a teeny little break, Asafield won anomaly defenders. It's that and anemone. I can never anonymity. Anomaly, anonymity, anemone. Anomaly, anonymity, anomaly. You try that, okay? So as far as I just lost 10 people. Like, it was probably the Comic Sans all over my face. This makes me feel bad. Comic Sans came from Mother Russia. Yes, very true. You don't make text in Mother Russia. Text makes you. Font makes you. Okay, so since we're doing a little giveaway, and I wanted to tell you guys that the t-shirts are in fact coming. If any of you are my patrons on my Patreon site, I have the t-shirts, and apparently there was an issue with the resolution or something where I had pictures that I was going to send you guys, and they never got there. But here's my Patreon account. I made it with the help of you guys, so I'm very, very happy with being able to do what I really want to do. And I wanted to obviously say thanks for your support, and even if you are not supporting me monetarily, I don't care. I don't care at all. You guys are great. Here's my Patreon account. I post my normal videos, which I promised I would do, and I have a lot of kind of patron exclusive stuff. But like I said, if you ever just want to figure out what I'm up to here on my new account, just click that follow button. Then I'm going to make insanely large and try to point. So you can just follow me there. And that's another way that you can kind of show your support. So again, I really appreciate it. Yay! Okay, so we talked about why Android isn't really open source. We talked about what to look for in an open source operating system. We talked about some of the main contenders that have come up recently. Followed up, I did that video at DEF CON a couple years ago, talking about the Ubuntu Edge and Yola, and just kind of. So if you want, I'll link that below, because you definitely should check that out to kind of get a good summary about the main contenders. The only update would be the OnePlus phone that's cyanogen mod based, which I definitely can't wait to play with. And yeah, and that it seems like HTML5 has come to the forefront as being definitely needed, since 85% of applications use them anyway. And that's why Firefox came out with the big guns. Well, actually not really with the big guns, with more mid-range phones. We talked about if you want open source kind of running organically, you kind of have to sacrifice on the hardware front. Stability for stability, you're basically sacrificing stability for those high-end phones, because you're trying to push something that isn't organically designed to be there. So I would say your best bet if you want a high-end phone is to check out one of the Ubuntu Touch phones that will be coming out here soon. They're a little bit more high-end, going to be around $400, not the crazy $800. or a OnePlus, which is also around $400. And it's always nice to just like buy your phone straight out and not be like handcuffed to some sort of carrier, you know. So that's definitely ideal. And so far, and feel free to chime in here because I'm watching the IRC, we have Yola, which does, Yola does Sailfish. We have Tizen, which recently got picked up by Intel, which is cool. Ubuntu Touch, which again, no more Android Edge because that shit was ridiculous. Not ready for it yet, at least. So the Ubuntu Touch, Tizen, Sailfish OS, and Firefox OS. So we have 4 in OnePlus if you consider CyanogenMod being kind of included there. So I hope to talk about these in the near future and at length. Yeah. I actually did get my hands on the Firefox OS recently when I went to OzCon. Sorry, it was like spaced completely on the names and does that ever happen to you? So when I went in Portland, I hit up a Mozilla party and I tried one of their Firefox OS phones. And okay, so the really weird thing is if you're into widgets heavily, you're gonna be disappointed because essentially this this experience is based on your own search. So what it does is you type something like I want to find out good brunch places, and then my whole user interface kind of changes to fit what I'm looking for at that exact moment. And me being like a really OCD person about where my things are and having them be like organized there each time kind of drove me nuts. But on the plus side, you have a $90 smartphone. So like, what more do you want, really? There's also still issues with them running Android apps. And it is just essentially a zip file with a bunch of HTML and CSS and JavaScript like I talked about before. But it's a really, really good option for people who are on a budget. I also wanted to interject that the Ubuntu Touch has the underlying layer also CyanogenMod, so you guys are doing it right for sure. And the Tizen operating system is awesome because the issue that you guys have pointed out a lot today is that there's not that many applications that are available. So another problem is when you have, like, Android is a giant, and so is iOS, but you know, more of a restricted giant, you know, more of like the sloth in the Goonies who had to stay in the basement. He's a restricted giant, yeah. So it's really important, like with Tizen, you are running on their application compatibility layer, which has like 400,000 Android applications that can run on the device. So that's going to be my next intent, is grabbing something on Tizen for sure. And then DJ Howells mentioned that Yola can be ported to other phones. So Yola is also kind of like Firefox OS in the way that it's meant for, you know, it's like a revival from Migo, which was umpteen years ago. And it's more for like functionality over form. Definitely when I had my hands on it, it was like, you know, trying to be as fast as possible and not necessarily as beautiful as possible. But as far as I know, the UI is still not open source. So there's that, you know. Phablets. I was mentioning like a phone that doesn't require 2 hands. Well, this one is ridiculous. And I actually wanted to try my hand at some like drawing and animation, which is why I have this little stylus and why I just dropped it on the ground. Okay. phablets. Okay. So Chaos Rifle was saying that I like to tweak my phone and have everything organized to the point that I have full control over. I don't mind options to automatically change, but if I'm buying something, I want full control over every aspect. So that would be reminiscent of not having the Firefox OS adaptive changing experience, you know. Another risk we run if we try to be innovative, it can end up crashing and burning pretty easily. So, you know, it's easy to be behind the monitor or the person who isn't doing the creation and say, well, that's not creative, or that's not innovative, or that's just plain terrible. So it's something to be said about actually getting it in your hands and trying it out, you know. So I'm just kind of going through IRC again, doing this every once in a while, and let me know about what you think about the form of this live stream. I try to make it have some structure, despite ADD. So yeah, I love high-end phones. Yep. So just to recap, since it's already been an hour. Where can we find info on how to install Sailfish on non-Yola software? Actually, Yola has been, in the entire like mobile experience that I've had dealing with these companies, they've been the coolest ever. And they've also been making phones since the days of old, so they're not like Ubuntu coming into the scene like, yeah, I'm, you know, Shuttleworth and I can do all the things. And it's like, no, we can't give you 32 mil, buddy. Sorry. So they've been really good, and in fact I will link all the information you could ever possibly want once this video goes live. And oh, another really cool thing is because their servers are not local, they don't have to report to the good old NSA. So yeah, we do like that very much. Speaking of getting smacked down, do you guys remember when Qualcomm did Code Aurora? So that was like in 2010 or something, they had an open source 2D, 3D Linux kernel driver, which was for the GPU core, which was like, ooh, this could be a thing. This could be like early VR or just awesomeness. And then for some reason, they decided to do DMCA takedowns on like hundreds of GitHub pages when they were using the open source Code Aurora like base. So it's kind of like, doesn't it kind of tie your stomach in knots to have like this war that's waging? But since it's already been an hour, I want to say we need to fight the good fight, you know, and that's why I'm kind of been doing more, not woo-woo, but more like user privacy, security, how to free yourself. I'm going to kind of break down net neutrality here soon, because I still have people that say, you know, I still have people that think about net neutrality as being like the thing that happened with Netflix. They literally think that Comcast tunneled out a new tunnel, put a new wire to give Netflix the fastest internet for us. That's not why they charged them. They charged them because they were throttling them before. And by throttling them, I meant the cable was just as fast. It was really awesome, but they essentially decided to be greedy. So that's what Comcast and is an example of another super giant. So it's kind of our duty to stare those super giants in the face and say, we do have independent thought. We do have an impact for FCC, or, you know, to the FCC. We can use unlocked phones. Like, a lot of it is, that's how I've been feeling lately, and I hope to impart a lot of those ideals on you guys, or just kind of like shoot the shit with you and also like commiserate on, and hopefully in the future create this model for open source, truly open source behavior, truly open source, truly community efforts in the technological space. So that's what I'm hoping for, and you guys have been so awesome trying to help me get there. So it's only a couple more weeks and I will be well positioned with my new studio, and I just wanted to do as many live shows and get back in producing as many as much content as I possibly can. So hopefully you guys will stick with me through this little journey. Yeah, and that will be really awesome. Okay, cool. I will meet you guys back in IRC and we can chat for a bit. But until next time, thanks for watching OS Salt. Oh god, I actually have that memorized. Thanks for watching OS Salt. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on next episode of all things open source. Really open source. Really, really. Thanks, guys. Bye. Oh, and the names that you will be seeing when I edit this are the ones that I forgot to put in my video that was part of my patron rewards. So thank you, all you guys listed here have really, really pushed me and helped me get to the point that I am today. So thank you so much, you guys. And hopefully the stream gets less and less ghetto in the future. And I know none of this actually makes sense to you now, but it will.